the biggest thing I think in terms of the elite, when you're looking at elite competitive curling, is you probably have to work a little bit backwards. You have to start off as how do we maintain the status that we have right now of winning a lot of medals, irrelevant to the World Championships. Anyways, winning lots of medals, because if we change something and we don't win, everyone in Canada is going to say, what the hell? Why aren't we winning? We're Canada, we're curling, we need to win. So I think we have to ensure that when you're looking at elite curling, you have to look at how you keep the game strong up top and then work down and ensure that there's a feeder system to get other people in there, because the Glenn Howards and Kevin Martins and Kevin Cooties and stuff in the world aren't going to be there. You can look at the team of Jacobs, they're pretty young, right? So they're going to be around for a while. That's the biggest thing is how do you get a feeder system to keep replenishing as much as, and I don't know if really the competitive stream and people entering playdowns, is that monetarily, I don't know the numbers, but is that monetarily something that is affecting organizations? So I guess that's some people who are, I can't remember real fast, if playdown numbers going down means a significantly less revenue for them.
I think that's the obvious handoff, is to go from Noel to Anna.
So obvious, thank you. Yes, Nolan, it is a revenue stream. I think most organizations, provincial and territorial organizations, at one point, it was the only revenue stream. And I think for us, the winning numbers has become an eye-opener. I know our organization, even though it's one of our revenue streams, we know it's not the revenue stream anymore. And I think that's the big thing that when I was asked to be on the panel where the competitive curlers are going, and I've heard it, wasn't here for the morning session, I was in the other one, but I heard it this session, is this new paradigm that we're in. The paradigm that we were in before isn't the same. So, yes, competitive curling, I think most provinces and territories have less teams competing. But for me, what is the healthy number of teams competing? And what is our new paradigm? So before it was, maybe back in Jerry's day, everybody entered because everybody had a chance. It's okay, Jerry. I told you what age I turned this year, so I don't know. And the paradigm these days is exactly what Nolan said. We hear that from, why would I enter? I don't have a chance. And Anne said it this morning in her keynote speech, right off the start, is that if you're going to do something, and her motto, I think it's the same as most people's motto, is if you're going to do something, you're going to give it all, you're going to do it well. And it's not easy. Competitive curling, especially for the men's and women's, it's not easy anymore. Most of our high performance camps, and I've taught it a lot, and I'm not sure who had the first PowerPoint slide, it might have been Jim Wade, but it was, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it. And our competitive paradigm has now turned into very much hard work, commitment, time, that sort of thing. So I think for as we move forward, I think we all know the problems and maybe where the competitive curlers are going, but for me it's the what is healthy in our men's and women's in each of our areas, and what is healthy number of competitors to then within our feeder systems to then keep the competitions going. And do we need it? Yes, for sure we need it. We need the Nolan Theses for all the young athletes to aspire to become. We need it for keeping people engaged in the sport, for sponsors. We need it for our funding. We need the competitive curling, but what is healthy within that. So, and revenue stream, another part of it, sponsorship, TV deals, everything, it all works together. So as much as we want the clubs full, and we focus a lot on that, we need to figure out what's the healthy number, and then how can we work within that, within the competitive curling. So maybe having 2 200 teams entered is not a healthy number anymore, but where do we go from there?
I think Nolan makes a great point there as well, just to shift back there for 1 minute. It's about, in Canada, and the CCA and the health of the organization, winning medals is very, very important. So, there's always a lot of focus put on that for funding purposes and so on. The teams who fall outside of that funded range, I think sometimes, reach into that, why are we doing this anymore? These guys are all being paid to, curl against us, and they're all funded by it. And I think it's, I think there needs to be a little bit more education process. And I know Nolan does a great job of all the blogging work he does. He talks about the day of the life of a curler and the hard work that they put in, the family and life sacrifices that these teams put in. And it's hard work to get there, and you need to show that more often, I think, to the other teams out there, so they realize the sacrifices that these teams put into. On top of that, I think we need to offer opportunities to build that kind of minor league feeder system that allow teams, competitive teams, to kind of play at their level, but then also leave a path for younger teams to climb the ladder, get there, and not have to blow their budget right away. Come out of school, a university, and try and get into the working world. Even guys like Nolan had a real job at one point where you worked full time and you had to balance work with curling and there's limited numbers of days off. And now you're to a point where you can actually go out, you can be funded, it can help support some of the stuff that you do. Yeah, exactly, that helps too. But it's some of the things that I endeavor to try and do in the sport is work on building that feeder system, events where we look at schedules that start on a Friday evening and build out so that teams don't have to take time off work. One of the early season events on the World Curling Tour that I manage, I get all the schedules for teams, and I actually build a schedule. We have 2 days, a full Thursday, full Friday. I build a schedule so no team has to throw more than one work day. And some teams have requests that are just, hey, I want to curl in the event, but I have a problem, I can't curl Saturday. I've had some weddings getting away at times. And I build, it's a pooled event, we build a schedule out so it fits their schedule. And I think doing things like that help, open up avenues for these teams to compete a little bit more and maybe climb that ladder and get to a point where the top teams get to. I guess, one more thing, like Brad Jacobs team is probably a great example of that. They curled the entire curling tour. They had no events within about a 6-hour drive of where they lived for years. They put in miles and miles on the highway to come play all these smaller events, and they continue to get better. They put in all the hard work behind the scenes, and over about an 18-month span, they go and win Brier and then the Olympics. And if there's anybody out there who says it can't be done, that roll out all the excuses, there's the example of how it can be done.
And I think the biggest thing that came out of it is just realigning everyone's expectations of what competitive curling means, and realigning, telling the story of what our sport is and what the competitive elite stream of our sport is. It's a mature sport now, and it's getting more and more like the NHL and golf and tennis and stuff, and that there's elite athletes and they should be celebrated, and then we should figure out a system of how to build the next elite athlete, and then from there, and also build out the grassroots level, and it's, there may not all be tied together, but they're all important, and I think it's the maturation of the sport and where we go from here.
The tradition of the sport was that every curler in this country could enter to get to the Brier, get to the Scotties, get to the Canadian Championship, become that person or that team that wears the maple leaf on their back. And I think right now, with where our sport has gone, becoming Olympics, the amount of time and effort that athletes are putting in to be at that top level means that a lot of those people at the grassroots entry level, that dream may not be alive for them. It's still realistic. Anybody can compete and play in our sport, but it may not be alive.
And I think we really need to focus on continuing the elite
performance side of the game, but at the same time, how do we supplement that, that next tier, the grassroots, the club development, and we heard some interesting conversations about the disconnect that Olympic performances don't necessarily generate long-term club members, but I think the exposure to the game does help to a point. But I think we could be doing more to support clubs and the rest of the game as well.